The autopsy of John F. Kennedy at Bethesda lasted about 3 hours. Yet one question remains. Why was his body moved from Dallas to Washington for the autopsy? According to what has been reported, the transfer was imposed at Parkland on Secret Service agent Roy Kellerman on the instruction of an officer whose identity has not been established. Kellerman would later tell the Warren Commission, referring to the person who told him to move the body, "I don't remember his name." At the same time, Dr. Earl Rose reportedly reminded those at Parkland that Texas law required a medico-legal autopsy in Dallas before the body could leave the jurisdiction, and he opposed the removal. Despite these objections and despite the local procedure being invoked, the casket was taken to Air Force One. Once aboard, the official account maintains that Mrs. Kennedy chose Bethesda for the autopsy. But then what is the real reason for that decision, and for such haste? JFK's death was announced at 1 p.m. Had a medico-legal autopsy been conducted promptly in Dallas, starting at 2 p.m., for example, it could likewise have taken about 3 hours under the direction of an experienced medical examiner in a civilian setting without being subject to the authority and constraints of a military institution. By around 5 p.m., the examination could have been completed, and the body could then have been transported to Washington. So why choose Bethesda, and why override the objection grounded in Texas law? Some see in this a high-stakes hypothesis, placing the autopsy under military control in order to manage how it unfolded, at the risk, under this reading, of steering the findings, neglecting key elements, or even making evidence disappear that might support the idea of a conspiracy. If that were the case, it would mean that procedure was knowingly overridden, even at the cost of using pressure and intimidation to prevent any opposition. It is precisely this knot between local procedure, the decision to remove the body, and the conditions under which the autopsy was performed that continues to fuel questions. And that is the central question. Why would waiting 3 more hours in Dallas so an autopsy could be conducted by a qualified medical examiner accustomed to gunshot wounds be considered unthinkable? Here's the answer. Under this interpretation, because a properly conducted on-site autopsy, free of institutional constraints, could have produced a fully complete, hard-to-dispute report, one that might have led to conclusions incompatible with the narrative that later prevailed, the one ultimately adopted by the Warren Commission.